The bastion aegis hung in orbit like a god's clenched fist, a structure of obsidian alloy and pulsating energy veins that stretched across its surface like molten arteries. Built to repel entire armadas, it was the dominion of Xylatha's pride, the fortress that had never fallen, never even trembled. Commander Verex stood before the primary viewport, his 4 eyes fixed on the endless void. The stars reflected in the chitinous plates of his armor, cold and sharp. His mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he surveyed the perfection of order. 72 sectors fortified, he murmured. 72 victories assured. Commander, said Sub-Officer Crix, his voice hesitant. There's an incoming vessel, small, unarmed, origin unknown. Unknown? Verex turned, antennae twitching. At these coordinates? Yes, sir. It matches the propulsion signatures of a pre-fold drive. Primitive tech. Human design. The command deck filled with a low hiss of disbelief. Laughter followed, a coarse, mocking sound that rolled through the ranks. A human? Verex scoffed. They haven't even mastered coherent gravity wells. What is this, some kind of Federation joke? Crix adjusted his hollow panel. They're broadcasting on an open frequency. Message is short. Text and audio both. Play it. A moment later, a woman's voice echoed across the bridge, calm and strangely clear. This is Captain Evelyn Drake of the Resolute Dawn. Requesting permission to knock. Silence followed. For several heartbeats, no one spoke. Then laughter erupted, genuine, unrestrained. Verex leaned back in his command seat, his mandibles parting in amusement. Knock? On the Aegis? He gestured toward the tactical display, where the small human ship floated before the fortress like a dust mote before a storm. Send them a response. Crix nodded, composing himself. What should I say, sir? Verex's tone dripped with mockery. Tell them this fortress does not open its doors for insects. Before the transmission could be sent, the Resolute Dawn moved. It wasn't fast. If anything, it drifted, aligning its hull directly toward the Aegis primary shield array. Then something subtle happened, a pulse so faint the sensors nearly missed it. A deep, resonant vibration rolled through the command deck. It wasn't mechanical. It was physical. Everyone felt it in their chest plates, a low, rhythmic thump that echoed once, then again. The human ship just... Crix frowned. Commander, I believe it just knocked. Impossible. Sir, our sensors registered a gravimetric pulse, frequency 1.3 Hz, localized through, 12 simultaneous dimensions? The fortress lights flickered. Minor systems wavered for a second before stabilizing. Verex rose sharply. Report! No damage detected, Crix said quickly, scanning the readouts. Shields are holding. All systems stable, though some readings are anomalous. Anomalous? The shield harmonics are resonating backward, sir. The wave returned stronger than it arrived. Across the deck, scientists leaned toward their instruments, speaking in hurried tones. One of them, an older Xylath physicist with a cracked carapace, looked up, his voice shaking. Commander, she's found a harmonic within the quantum lattice. Our shields aren't reflecting her signal, they're singing with it. Verex's antennae stiffened. That's impossible. Our defense grid operates beyond classical resonance. She's not using classical resonance, sir. Before he could demand clarification, another pulse struck. The same low, measured rhythm. Not an attack, more like a heartbeat echoing through the void. The hull itself hummed in sympathy. The human's transmitting again, Crix said, wide-eyed. Is this frequency polite enough? Evelyn Drake's voice asked, smooth and steady. Or should I knock louder? Verex's composure cracked. Target that vessel. Fire all primary batteries. The order was executed instantly. Beams of plasma energy, bright as suns, erupted from the fortress batteries, 12 lances of annihilation converging on the tiny ship. They never reached it. Each beam bent mid-flight, curving like molten ribbons until they folded back upon themselves. The shots collided at their origin point, detonating harmlessly in front of the fortress. The shockwave rippled across the shields like ripples on glass. The bridge erupted in chaos. Warnings flared. Consoles overloaded. The fortress, unbreachable, invincible, had just punched itself. "Cease fire!" Verex roared, gripping the edge of his console. Sparks rained across the deck. "Diagnostics, now! Feedback loop across the main weapon conduits!" Crix shouted. "Energy reversion ratio unknown. She's folding our fire vectors into null space." Verex stared through the viewport. The Resolute Dawn floated motionless, its matte black hull reflecting none of the light around it. For a moment, he wondered if the ship was even real. "Communications?" he demanded. "She's transmitting again, Commander." "Put it through." The woman's voice returned, unhurried, almost kind. "You misunderstand, Commander. We're not here to fight. We just needed you to open the door." "What door?" he snarled. "The one you built around yourselves." Her words carried no threat, but every sensor aboard the fortress began to scream. Energy levels spiked through the upper decks. Gravitational fields shifted. The fortress-owned shield lattice pulsed with an unfamiliar frequency, a mirror of the human ship's heartbeat pattern. "Commander, shield harmonics destabilizing!" Crix yelled. "They're sinking to her pulse." The scientist shouted equations, trying to isolate the interference. None succeeded. The fortress outer barrier shimmered, turning translucent. Beyond it, stars warped and twisted like reflections on rippling water. Verex slammed his claws on the control rail. "Counterphase the harmonic! Reverse polarity! We can't!" Crix's fingers danced across the controls. "Every input reverts automatically. She's in control of the lattice." "Impossible! She's rewriting it faster than we can compensate." On the main display, the entire defensive shell began to glow faintly blue. Then, like breath condensing on glass, it vanished. The bastion aegis, the fortress that had never fallen, was naked. "Commander, shields are gone." Verex's throat plates rattled. "How?" The old physicist turned, disbelief etched into his every movement. "She didn't destroy them. She made them forget how to exist." Outside, the Resolute Dawn remained still. Then its forward lights flashed 3 times, a universal signal. "Permission granted," Evelyn said softly. Her ship moved forward, gliding through the space where the fortress's barrier should have been. The motion was deliberate, almost ceremonial. The defensive guns that should have shredded her hull refused to fire. The targeting systems recognized nothing, because according to their sensors, there was nothing to target. Verex watched, speechless, as the human vessel drifted closer. Every instinct screamed to act, yet every attempt at control met static feedback. "Commander," Crix whispered, "our core AIs just went offline. The fortress architecture is singing. She's tuned us into some kind of resonance chain." The scientist turned pale. "It's as if she's talking to the station itself." Then the human voice returned, soft but firm. "We come in peace, Commander. But peace isn't the same as permission." The words hung in the air like a verdict. The lights dimmed. The sound of the fortress, once a steady hum of power, became something else entirely. A rhythm. A heartbeat. The same knock that had begun this encounter now echoed through the halls of the greatest stronghold in known space. For the first time in his career, Commander Verex felt something he couldn't quantify, measure, or weaponize. Fear, not of destruction, but of irrelevance. He stared at the screen as the human ship approached the inner gates. The impossible had happened, a human had knocked, and the universe itself had answered. The fortress that had laughed fell silent. The Resolute Dawn glided through the breach in the Aegis fortress as if gravity itself were making room for it. Every defense drone, turret, and automated sentinel that should have reduced it to vapor remained dormant, like obedient sentries bowing before an unseen command. Inside the fortress command deck, chaos had given way to stunned silence. Consoles flickered in subdued tones. The familiar hum of power now pulsed with a strange, rhythmic resonance. It sounded alive. Commander Varek stood motionless, mandibles tight, claws gripping the rail so hard that cracks formed in the metal. "Identify how she did this," he said, voice low and dangerous. Crix worked frantically at his console. "The human signal has infiltrated every subsystem. It isn't data corruption, it's conversation. The ship is talking to our infrastructure." "Machines do not talk," Varex hissed. "This one does," the old physicist murmured. "Or rather, it listens." It adjusted its frequency until the fortress replied. Before Varex could respond, a soft ping drew all eyes to the viewport. The human vessel had stopped precisely at the inner gates. Its airlock extended, bridging the gap like a single line of silver light. "They're requesting boarding clearance," Crix whispered. Varex's plates shifted in disbelief. "She breaches my walls, seizes my systems, and now requests permission to step inside?" "She doesn't need permission," the scientist said. "She already has it." The commander's antennae flattened. "Seal the deck. Deploy guards. I'll greet our guests myself." The main airlock hissed open with an elegant click. Steam curled from the threshold, parting to reveal a woman stepping forward in a simple dark gray flight suit. No armor, no visible weapon. Her hair was tied back, her expression calm and curious. "Captain Evelyn Drake," she introduced herself. "Thank you for not shooting again. I'd hate to make your repair crews work overtime." Varex towered over her, his 4 eyes reflecting her image from different angles. "You trespass on the Dominion's most sacred military structure, destroy its defenses, and speak of repairs?" "I didn't destroy anything," she replied evenly. "I just turned the lock the right way." He studied her, scanning for deceit. Her pulse was steady, her scent composed. Not fear. Not arrogance either, something colder. Purpose. "You realize," Varex said, stepping closer, "that your species has just committed an act of war." She met his gaze without blinking. "If I intended war, Commander, there wouldn't be a fortress left for us to talk in." That single sentence shifted the air in the room. The guards glanced at each other but didn't lower their weapons. Varex's mandibles clicked once, sharply. "Why are you here, human?" "To deliver a warning," she said simply. "And to make you listen? By violating our defenses? Your walls wouldn't let me do it any other way." Her tone wasn't smug, it was factual, almost weary. That made it worse. Varex gestured sharply. "Escort her to containment." Crix hesitated. "Sir, our cells are still offline. Power grids rerouted through her resonance frequency. She controls everything below level 6. Varex turned his glare on Evelyn. "You hold this fortress hostage." "No," she said quietly. "I freed it. You built it to keep danger out. I removed what kept you in." He felt the insult but also something unfamiliar beneath it, doubt. "Explain yourself." She reached into a small pouch on her belt, pulling out a thin metallic shard that shimmered faintly. "This is what we call a resonance key. It interfaces with matter through harmonic alignment. Your shield generators, your energy cores, even your AI lattice, they're all built on precursor sub-foundations, right?" Varex's antennae twitched. "That technology predates your species by millennia. You shouldn't even know of it." Evelyn smiled faintly. "We didn't, until we started digging in the wrong places on Mars. Turns out, the precursors left notes, and they liked puzzles." She stepped past him and tapped the metal floor lightly with her boot. A soft tremor rippled outward, and for an instant the corridor lights flared in response. "Your fortress hums in 12 frequencies." I just sang back. Crix stared at her in disbelief. "You're harmonically linked to the station?" "I'm harmonically linked to everything that remembers the precursor tongue," she corrected. "And they built half your civilization's toys before vanishing. Maybe it's time someone learned to speak it again." Varex folded his arms, concealing unease. "What is this warning, then? Another species rising? Some imaginary cosmic threat?" Evelyn met his gaze. "Not rising. Returning. The precursors didn't vanish, they ran." Something hunted them, and that something is close enough to taste your power grids. Laughter echoed through the deck. One of the guards snorted. More human melodrama. You expect us to believe ancient gods are coming to punish us? Evelyn looked at him, pity in her eyes. Not gods. Vacuums that think. They don't punish, they erase. Crix glanced at his sensors again, uneasy. Commander, background radiation is spiking in subspace bands. Could be residual effects from her interference, but... It's not me, Evelyn said. That's the echo. They hear when the song changes. Verex had heard enough. Enough riddles. You will surrender your technology for analysis. Whatever you've brought aboard will be contained. I didn't bring it, she said. It brought me. The words landed like a physical blow. Verex took a step forward. You claim to be infected? Integrated, she corrected. The resonance key isn't a tool, it's an inheritance. My neural lattice synchronizes with precursor data patterns. When I knocked, I didn't open your gate, I opened their frequency. Crix muttered, half to himself. A biological interface to precursor code. Evelyn nodded. Human brains are messy enough to survive the translation. It's why they chose us. Chose? Verex echoed. You think your species was selected by ghosts? I think they left breadcrumbs, she said. And someone eventually had to follow them. The old physicist stepped forward, eyes bright with both awe and terror. If you're correct, your signal awakened dormant precursor architecture across the sector. Evelyn turned toward the viewport. Outside, the void shimmered faintly. It already has. Through the vast glass, subtle distortions rippled between the stars, waves of faint blue light flickering across the darkness. At first glance it looked like aurora scattered across the void, but the pattern repeated with unnatural precision. What is that? Crix whispered. The answer, Evelyn said softly. Every wall hums when the universe prepares to change. Verex's tone hardened. You unleashed this. You endangered my people. She turned to face him fully. No, Commander. Your people endangered themselves the moment they built prisons around knowledge they didn't understand. He lunged forward, claws scraping the floor. You presume to lecture a civilization that's endured for 10,000 years. And yet one knock-on made your defenses. She replied calmly. Maybe endurance isn't the same as wisdom. He froze, fury warring with comprehension. For a long moment neither spoke. Then the fortress trembled. A deep vibration rolled through the deck plates, identical to the first pulse. But this time it didn't come from her. The resonance came from outside. Crix looked at his instruments, face draining of color. Commander, gravitational distortion approaching. Vector unknown. It's matching her frequency. Verex's mandibles flexed. What kind of weapon? Evelyn interrupted. Not a weapon. A listener. The viewport darkened automatically to compensate for sudden glare. Beyond the fortress, space rippled and split. A shape emerged, not mechanical, not biological, but a silhouette defined by the absence of stars. Its edges flickered like torn fabric. The physicist whispered, It's feeding on the station's resonance field. Evelyn's expression hardened. Then stop singing back. What? Verex snapped. Shut your lattice down before it follows the sound to your core. That thing doesn't see light, it hears structure. Every frequency you broadcast is a map. Crix's hands flew across the controls. I can't decouple the grid, it's self-sustaining. Evelyn closed her eyes. The metal shard in her hand pulsed, faint and blue. Then let me help. A hum spread through the air, low and steady. Systems flickered, then dimmed. The resonance fell silent. Outside, the shadow shape froze mid-motion, then dissolved back into the dark like smoke drawn into a vacuum. Every eye on the deck turned to her. Verex broke the silence. What was that? The hollow, she said. The thing that chased the precursors to extinction. She pocketed the shard, her voice flat. Now that I've knocked, they know someone new is home. The hum of the fortress returned, quieter, uncertain, like breath held after a scream. Verex exhaled slowly, the rage gone from his tone. You said you came to warn us. Consider us warned. Now tell me, human, how do we stop them? Evelyn met his eyes. By tearing down every wall that ever tried to keep them out. The bastion aegis hung in silence. Its colossal structure, once pulsing with golden light and arrogance, now drifted dimly over a bruised planet. Systems ran on emergency power, the fortress still humming faintly to an invisible rhythm left behind by the encounter. What remained of the Dominion's officers worked in hushed tones, avoiding the gaze of their shaken commander. Commander Verex stood at the viewport, watching the void where the hollow apparition had dissolved. His reflection looked smaller than usual, stripped of command. Behind him, humans and aliens alike moved through the fractured command deck, now lit by only a few trembling blue beams. Evelyn Drake sat on a railing near the central console, sipping water from a metal flask. Her ship, the Resolute Dawn, was docked within one of the fortress's auxiliary bays, untouched, though it now felt more like a guest than an intruder. You're quiet, Commander, she said. Verex's voice was low. You brought a ghost into my fortress, destroyed my walls, and then claimed to save us. You expect conversation? Evelyn capped her flask. I expect comprehension. What you saw wasn't destruction. It was exposure. The hollow respond to frequencies. Your wall screamed to them for centuries. You just never heard the echo. He turned, mandibles flaring in irritation. And your answer is to tear down everything that protects us? She met his glare. Protection and isolation aren't the same thing. You built this fortress to keep the universe out. The precursors built walls to hold the hollow back. Both failed. Maybe it's time to stop hiding behind barriers. Verex's tone cooled into the clipped cadence of a soldier. You speak in philosophy while we face annihilation. That's usually how humanity survives, she said. Philosophy under fire. Crix interrupted, stepping between them. Commander, the Dominion Council is demanding a status update. They want to know how one human vessel dismantled the most secure fortress in the quadrant. Tell them it was sorcery. Verex snapped. Evelyn raised a brow. I prefer engineering. Crix looked uneasy. They're preparing retaliation fleets, sir. They think the humans have developed a new weapon. Of course they do, Verex muttered. Fear always interprets new knowledge as attack. Evelyn folded her arms. Let them think that. It'll buy us time. Verex turned sharply. Time for what? For the hollow to arrive in force, she said. And for you to decide if you'd rather fight me, or them. Hours later, the War Council of the Dominion convened via holographic projection. Dozens of commanders appeared around the fortress's command deck, their translucent forms flickering as distant systems relayed their signals. All eyes fixed on Verex and the humans standing beside him. Commander, intoned the Dominion's high strategist, his voice heavy with disdain. You claim this human disabled the Aegis defenses without aggression. Yet we see our fortress compromised and our authority humiliated. Explain yourself. Verex's tone was clipped but controlled. Captain Evelyn Drake of Earth did not attack. She demonstrated a breach we were too arrogant to perceive. That arrogance nearly killed us all. A murmur rippled through the holograms. Propaganda, hissed one. The Dominion does not fear primitive species. Evelyn took a step forward. You should. Not because of us, but because you're running the same code that killed the precursors. The room quieted. The precursors built resonance walls to contain the hollow, she continued. But those walls became beacons. They sent a signal saying, we exist. Here we are. When the hollow came, they devoured every frequency that vibrated. The precursors fled into subspace, and they left their warning encoded in harmonic architecture. Your fortress inherited their design. Lies, another general spat. Ancient superstition. Evelyn held up the metallic shard. It glowed faintly, reacting to her touch. This is the proof. It carries a fragment of the archive, precursor memory stored as mathematical resonance. It woke when you fired on me. It recognized the same energy signature used in the old war. The council's lights flickered. One of the holograms distorted, his image fragmenting. Then a deep hum filled the chamber, the same rhythm that had haunted them since the first knock. Crix checked his instruments. Transmission spike! It's not coming from the human ship, it's broadcasting from the fortress itself. Shut it down, Verex ordered. I can't. It's external now. The signal's bouncing between Dominion outposts. Evelyn's expression tightened. They've locked onto your entire defense network. Every fortress, every relay that uses precursor circuitry just lit up like a beacon. The strategist's projection turned toward her. You mean to tell us this creature brought the end of our empire? I mean to tell you it already began long before I arrived, she said. You built your empire on bones you didn't understand. Verex slammed a claw against the console. Enough. We need solutions, not accusations. Evelyn looked at him. Then listen carefully. The Hollow aren't physical invaders. They are distortions that consume structure, mathematical parasites. You can't fight them with guns. You fight them with silence. Crix frowned. You mean deactivate our defenses? Yes, she said. Every wall, every shield, every resonance field. Turn them off. Let the noise die. The room erupted in disbelief. Suicide. Madness. She seeks our surrender. Verex raised a hand, silencing them. If we do nothing, they'll consume us regardless. And I have already seen proof that this human's words are not delusion. The strategist's image darkened. Commander, if you follow this human's instruction, you will be stripped of command and executed for treason. Verex stared at him evenly. If I obey your command, there will be no Dominion left to execute me. The hologram flickered and vanished. The Council had severed the link. The command deck dimmed as emergency protocols disengaged one by one. Officers watched as the fortress's shields, once symbols of pride, flickered out across the horizon. Feels wrong, Crix muttered. Standing unprotected in open space. Evelyn's gaze softened. You're not unprotected. You're just quiet. Verex approached her, his voice low. If this fails, my people will curse my name for eternity. Then let them, she said. You'll still have bought them eternity to curse in. An alarm blared across the deck. A sensor officer shouted. Gravitational anomalies detected, approaching fast. The viewport filled with shadow. Dozens of black voids rippled into existence, their outlines shifting like oil over shattered glass. They moved with impossible precision, phasing through matter and folding light itself. The Hollow, Crix whispered. Evelyn stepped forward, eyes narrowing. The shard in her hand pulsed brighter than before. They can't find silence comforting. They'll probe the quiet for something familiar. And if they do? Verex asked. Then we make them listen to something else. She pressed the shard against the console. Blue light flooded the bridge, spreading through the fortress's interior circuitry. The hum of resonance shifted, lower, deeper, steadier. Outside, the shadows hesitated, shapes bending awkwardly as if unsure. What did you do? Crix breathed. I changed the key, she said. Their frequency feeds uncertainty, fixed patterns. But if the pattern constantly rewrites itself, they can't feed. Verex watched the display. They're retreating. Not retreating, she corrected softly. Recalculating. The hollow shapes dissolved into the black of space, leaving only faint distortions in their wake. Silence reclaimed the deck. Crix exhaled shakily. It worked. Evelyn slumped against the console, exhausted but smiling faintly. Temporarily. They'll adapt. They always do. Verex studied her, something like respect in his gaze. You've turned my fortress into a tuning fork and silenced an enemy that defies comprehension. Humanity hides power behind humility. We hide fear behind curiosity, she said. It's our trick for staying alive. The physicist who had stood quietly until now spoke at last. Commander, the residual energy signature from her modulation, It's spreading. Other stations are picking it up. It's stabilizing their harmonic fields. Evelyn looked up. Then maybe this war won't happen after all. Verex folded his arms. Or maybe it's only delayed. She nodded. War's always delayed. Peace is just a pause we make between alarms. He turned toward the viewport. So what now, Captain? Evelyn's eyes followed his. Now we warn the rest of the galaxy. Every wall that hums like this one has to come down before they learn to knock back. Verex gave a low, clicking laugh. No wall in the universe survived once a human knocked. Perhaps it's time the universe learned why. The Dominion's banner still floated in the void above the broken fortress, but their authority was hollow now, symbolic, like old flags carried by ghosts. The bastion aegis drifted silently, a monument to the arrogance of walls and the stubbornness of those who built them. In its heart, the command deck glowed with the pale blue pulse of the resonance shard that Captain Evelyn Drake had left embedded in the main console. The shard had stabilized the surrounding systems, quieted the echoes of the hollow. But everyone aboard knew the silence wouldn't last. Silence, after all, was never absence, it was anticipation. Evelyn stood near the viewport, arms folded, studying the shifting stars. The human ship Resolute Dawn was docked again, partially dismantled for recalibration. She hadn't slept in 30 hours, and her eyes betrayed it, haunted yet focused. Verex joined her without speaking. His heavy footsteps resonated through the deck plates like distant thunder. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower than usual, thoughtful rather than sharp. Your modulation saved us, he said. But it also changed the signal pattern of every Dominion installation across 3 sectors. They are confused. Evelyn gave a small smile. Confusion means they're listening. It's a start. Or it means chaos, he countered. Maybe both, she said quietly. Civilizations rarely change without a little case. Crick's approached, carrying a data slate. Commander, the Federation has responded. They've dispatched a diplomatic fleet, 100 ships under the Unity Accord banner. They're asking for a joint council. Verex's antennae flicked. They'll want control. Of course, Evelyn said. Empires don't share well. Crix looked uneasy. And the readings from deep space, those haven't changed. The distortions are still growing. Evelyn took the slate, scanning the data. Her brow furrowed. They're accelerating. The Hollow are adapting faster than predicted. Verex turned sharply toward her. You said we had time? I said we had silence, she corrected. Time is an illusion built by species who need clocks to feel safe. The commander's mandibles clicked softly, a sound between amusement and frustration. Then what do we do with this illusion, Captain? Evelyn looked out at the fractured stars. We use it. Hours later, the Dominion and Federation fleets arrived in orbit. From the fortress command deck, the sky glittered with thousands of lights, massive dreadnoughts, science vessels, and reconnaissance ships forming a perimeter around the wounded Aegis. Inside the council chamber, tension hung thick. Verex stood beside Evelyn at the central table, surrounded by holographic projections of alien delegates. Every voice carried authority, fear, or both. Admiral Urin of the Federation, a tall, silver-haired human, regarded Evelyn with wary respect. Captain Drake, he said, you've created quite a disturbance. Half the Dominion considers you a threat. The other half thinks you're a prophecy. Both are overstatements, Evelyn replied. I'm just trying to keep the galaxy intact. A Krell emissary rumbled. The Hollow are myth. Ghosts told by extinct races to frighten the ignorant. Verex's mandibles clicked once in warning. Then the myths knocked on my fortress wall and nearly unmade it. Deny them again, and they'll answer you in person. Admiral Urin's gaze shifted to the resonance shard projected in holographic form. This device, he said. It's tied to precursor relics found on several border worlds. We've avoided activating them for fear of collapse. Good instinct, Evelyn said. Those relics are nodes in a lattice. They're not weapons, they're locks. And the Hollow are the reason those locks exist. She tapped the projection, magnifying a section of space. Lines of light connected between worlds like constellations. There are 42 resonance nodes across the galaxy. If even a third of them are decayed, the barrier between our universe and theirs will fracture completely. A murmur swept through the chamber. Verex spoke quietly. Then we must repair the network. Evelyn nodded. Reactivate, not repair. The code still exists in fragments. But someone has to link with the lattice directly, someone who can carry the archive's frequencies. Urin frowned. You mean you? Yes, she said simply. Crick stepped forward. Captain, your neural load readings already exceed human safety thresholds. Another link could destroy you. I know. Her tone was calm, almost detached. But the archive won't respond to anyone else. It bonded to me the moment I knocked. Verex stared at her. You speak as if this burden is acceptable. It's not, she said softly. But it's necessary. Urin folded his arms. And if you fail? Then your grandchildren will inherit silence in its truest form. The following hours were a blur of preparation. Technicians, human and alien alike, worked side by side, syncing Dominion resonance arrays with Federation relay nodes. The fortress's once hostile corridors now pulsed with cooperative energy, lines of light flowing like veins through living metal. In the center of it all stood Evelyn, connected to the shard through a neural interface. Her pulse synchronized with the fortress itself, her heartbeat becoming the metronome of the operation. Verex watched from the control dais. Every instinct told him to stop her, but logic and awe held him still. He'd seen courage before, but not like this. Crix monitored her vitals. Neural feedback increasing. Cognitive strain at 91%. She won't last long, the physicist muttered. Evelyn's voice came through the speakers, faint but clear. I'm still here. Her consciousness extended across light years. She felt the resonance nodes flicker to life one by one, each a heartbeat in the galactic dark. Every activation sang a tone, weaving a melody older than any species alive. She spoke through the system. Nodes 12 through 17 online, crosslink stable. Dominion sectors synchronized. Then the fortress shook. The viewport filled with a wave of black distortions, the hollow returning, drawn by the reawakening network. They've found us. Verex barked. Shields. Leave them down. Evelyn interrupted. If you resist, they'll adapt faster. Verex hesitated. He had learned to trust her, but surrendering defense defied everything his species believed. Still, he nodded. Outside, the hollow fleet advanced, vast shapes moving without propulsion, sliding through space like liquid shadows. Their presence warped time, sensors failed to define their boundaries. Inside the neural chamber, Evelyn's body trembled. Her voice wavered. They're probing the lattice. I can feel them trying to overwrite the pattern. Crix shouted. We're losing her link. Verex leaned close to the console. Drake, if you fall. Then finish the song. She whispered. Light exploded from the shard. The fortress became a beacon of pure harmonic energy, rippling through the entire network. The resonance wave cascaded from node to node, each amplifying the next until the entire galaxy vibrated with impossible sound. The hollow recoiled. The wave forced their forms to collapse into measurable reality, visible, tangible, vulnerable. Fire everything! Verex ordered. The combined Dominion, Federation fleet unleashed a synchronized barrage. Energy lances struck the manifested shadows, disintegrating them into glittering dust that faded into nothing. One by one, the hollow fragments broke apart and dissolved. The silence that followed was total. Then the lights dimmed. The shard cracked once, and Evelyn collapsed. Verex was the first to reach her. She was breathing barely. Her skin shimmered faintly with the same blue hue that had once defined the artifact. You did it, he said. Her eyes fluttered open. No, we did. Crix's console beeped. Commander, the network stabilized. The hollow signatures are gone. Evelyn smiled weakly. They'll be back someday. But not soon. We bought time, and maybe a little humility. Verex lowered his head in acknowledgement. The galaxy will remember you. She shook her head. They'll remember what happens when someone stops hiding behind walls. Outside the viewport, the stars shone unimpeded for the first time in millennia. The lattice glimmered faintly, an invisible barrier humming in quiet balance. Evelyn looked out through heavy eyelids, whispering the final words of the archive's translation. No wall endures forever. Sometimes the only way to protect what's precious is to open the door. Her hand went still. The shard dimmed, its light absorbed into the fortress's core. Verex turned to his officers. Record this moment. The day the walls fell, and humanity taught the stars to listen,